Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about my internship at Shelburne Farms. I got to do this through Rubenstein, and I'm getting 1 credit for this internship, and it's a really great opportunity, so I wanted to tell you all about it. So a little bit about brown Swiss cows. Right now, we are milking 110 brown Swiss cows twice a day, once at 4:30 in the morning, and then again at 3:30 p.m. in a 12-milker swing parlor, so it's a little different than our parlor here. It doesn't have butt panels or anything, and I'm going to show you some pictures of what it looks like. And then each cow averages about 50 pounds per milking every milking. The overall somatic cell count of the herd stays between 30,000 and 40,000, which is pretty low and awesome. The cows are bred throughout the year without hormones, so every morning we go in and do heat check. We'll check the butt paint on every single cow to see if any of that butt paint got rubbed off to tell if they're in heat. And then usually they calve during the spring, so it's been really busy with calves recently. So March and April are super crazy, and then in the fall they'll calve again, or heifers will calve in September, October, so it will be very busy again. The cows are put out on pasture from May until the end of October, so we're about to start putting them on pasture. A couple of the dry cows went out the other day, and we also have a group of heifers out. And we use rotational grazing, so every day the cows are moved to a different pasture, so I will have to go out and physically move them and push them to a different pasture. In the winter, the cows are kept in 2 barns with sand bedding, and they have access to food and water 24/7. So this is what the new barn looks like. So it's a freestall, and they can just walk around and hang out. This is the parlor. So the milkers kind of come down from the ceiling. So I'll prep all of these cows on this side, put all of these milkers on, prep those cows, and then swing the milkers over. So they literally hang down, and I'll have to like swing them to take them down from their like washing stand. And then these are our 2 bulk tanks. So I'll talk a little bit about cheese in a minute, but we have 2 bulk tanks that we switch between for every milking. So each morning, staff from the cheese facility come down to the dairy barn to pick up milk from one of the 2 tanks that you guys just saw. The milk will then go to the cheese facility to be made into our famous cheddar cheese. The cheese must be aged for 6 months minimum because the milk isn't pasteurized before it goes to the cheese making facility. So we have like a huge, I guess like case of cheese that's refrigerated to let the cheese age for a proper amount of time. And the property is really big, so like Shelburne Farms isn't just the dairy and the cheese making facility. There's also the inn, the coach barn, the new breeding barn that's being renovated, and these are like wedding venues, cottages, the farm store, the children's farmyard, and there's a bunch of different walking paths that are open to the public. But as you walk through the property, you will pass different pastures, and cows will be on every single pasture, which is really cool. And you will also see sheep grazing, because we also raise sheep. So calf chores, this is the majority of what I do at Shelburne. I'm kind of in charge of the calves. They're kept in their own barn, similar to cream. They're fed twice a day, once at 5:30 a.m. and again at 1:30 p.m. Each calf will get a select amount of milk, which is taken from the bulk tank or the receiver jar, so we don't use milk replacer. Most calves will start at 3 liters twice a day and move up to 4 liters once they get like their ground and they know how to drink. And they're usually fed with a bottle for the first 2 days, which I thought was interesting because usually our little guys are on bottles for much longer, but we try to get them off pretty quickly. And then they'll move on to a peach teat, which is like a feeder with a nipple on it. And then when a calf is born, they're given their own stall, so every calf has their own individual area, and they will get 3 feedings of colostrum from their mom. We take it, like, we don't have any like stored colostrum like we do here. So I will have to collect from the mom when she calves every single time. They also get their navel dipped with iodine. They're given first defense. The bulls and like beef cows are given a bolus, so like a pill, and the heifers are given like a paste. It's like blue and it gets all over the place. And then they also get a vaccine called Enforce. So lambing, we also have a herd of sheep at the farm. They also graze the different pastures. So lambing season begins at the end of February, and it started like kind of in the middle of February this year. We weren't ready for it, and it goes until May. Right now we have 90 lambs, which is crazy. It was a lot. But besides feeding cows, I'm also responsible for bottle feeding the baby lambs. So if a mom has triplets or quads, we take either one or two of the baby lambs away from the mom because it's so stressful for her to have to feed that many children at once. So then I end up taking care of them, bottle feeding them, spending time with them, and those bottle babies will go to the children's farmyard to become like petting zoo lambs. So they're like raised with me, and I get the opportunity to like pick them up and make them be social and everything, which is really cool. And then I'll wean them before they head over to the children's farmyard. So a little bit about climate action at the dairy. So Shelburne Farms, the dairy specifically, is located super close to Lake Champlain. So they're very aware of their impact on the lake and the environment. So each month we have a meeting as dairy staff to discuss different strategies to help reduce cow methane emissions and runoff. So they had a meeting last month, and some current strategies are silvopasture, applying biochar to the manure pit, which is already being done, and adding Linpro to the cow's feed. So silvopasture is integrating trees and grazing livestock operations like together. So having cows out on pasture with trees and like being in like kind of a forested area, but also kind of a pasture. We're trying to work on that this summer. They're having some trees planted, which is really cool. And then biochar, a thin layer of biochar is applied to the manure pit. Our pit is kind of like a swamp. It doesn't really look like a standard manure pit, but the biochar will go on top and it'll help decrease gas emissions from the poop pit. So Sam goes out, my boss, every like other day and puts a new layer of biochar on top, and that'll help like contain some of that gas. And then Linpro, which I haven't heard of before, and it's a new thing for the dairy. We're still doing research into it and whatnot. But it's a flaxseed-based feed additive that helps decrease methane emissions, which I haven't heard of before, and neither have they. So we're all kind of like trying to figure it out together, but it's exciting to see what Shelburne Farms is doing for the environment, especially because some farms don't have access to be able to do this. So like, it's cool that I'm working at one that has the resources to be able to do this. Do you guys have any questions or anything? Yeah.
Why did you choose to not use the fog safety or anything?
Sam is very particular about how he likes to raise his Swiss cows. He's very, I wouldn't say obsessed. He's obsessed, but he likes the natural process of like them going naturally into heat. And honestly, I like it too because they're in a free stall and they're also out on pasture. So like they have so much area to run around and like can actually show a heat, unlike here where it's so much harder and like we have to off sync them because they're standing in stalls all day. So it's been cool to like go in and do heat check every morning, which is like something I've never done here before. So it's cool and it's different. Yeah.
Do you use AI there still, or do you do web coverage?
Kind of both. So right now, Renee and Mo are responsible for doing all the breeding. Megan has lost feeling in her arm, so she sadly can't breed anymore. Also, it's women herdsmen, which is really cool and unusual. But they're great, and they both do the AI breeding. So after I pick out like who from heat check was in heat, we'll put them in headlocks and then breed them. But we also have a cleanup bull that went out with our heifers this year, just to like do the cleanup business. But usually we don't have him, and this is the first year that they're doing it, so that was pretty cool. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah.
So you guys milk twice a day. Is there, like, I don't know anything about brown Swiss. Is that because of them, or is that just?
It's kind of both. They aren't like super high producers, but their like milk components are really good, which is why it's good for cheese. So like their fat is really high in their milk. But like also getting them back in from pasture, like if we did it more than 2 times a day, it would be a lot. When with the amount of staff that we have, it just doesn't make sense to do more than that if the cows aren't producing enough. So
I'm gonna
yeah.
intervene because we have another guest speaker this morning, and you're around and Dr. Grant isn't.
I would, if we got more questions for Julietta, I'm hoping you might swing by like at a meeting or another morning class and we can dissect this further. I'd love to do
Yeah,
that.
definitely.
But
Thank
out of
you, guys.
respect to Dr. Grant, I think it's.
I'm flexible, why don't you guys aren't, because you have to go on to something else.
Right, and you came all the way here from
All the way from
the other
Plattsburgh.
side of the world.
The other side of the lake.
The lake.
Yeah.
Yeah.